Loving the new intro, Rick.
Full
Looking
screen
good.
now, high def, right? Yeah, right.
I know it said live in HD. I was like, oh, I gotta step it up. I gotta make sure my pores
HD.
are good.
Well, you know what? I don't even think that's high D for the visual. That's just high D for us. We're
Oh,
taking it to the
well,
next level today.
that's true. That's true. No lo-fi or standard definition for
No,
us
it's
here.
Friday. Everybody else is shutting down, closing their book out, and look where we're at. We're live for all of you for
We're
happy hour.
here. We're bringing it. It's been a weird week, but here we are. To quote Bill Murray in Scrooge, I'm feeling real weird about this right now, but let's do it.
And you know what, Amy? This is the cherry on the top of your whole week. So,
It
okay, so
is.
you had a weird week. Can you give us a little bit of insights what went down?
Oh.
You don't have to give all the details, but
Yeah, so last week was mine and Mr. Hunter, Rob Hunter's. It was our 15th wedding anniversary. And
woo, congratulations, 15 years.
although I like to say, I like to claim the 25. We were together 25 total. It took us 10 years to walk down the aisle. So I like to get credit for the 25 years that I've
25
been doing.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm lucky if I get a relationship for 25 minutes. I'm just joking.
Well, talk to us. We'll help you. We'll be your love coach.
Thank you
Rick.
so much. Free marriage advice right here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So last week was our anniversary, and I am a Disney kid through and through. You know, I grew up living in Florida, going to Disney very often, and I love Disney around the holidays. We can talk more about Disney in a minute. And so I said, you know, I want to go out there for a few days, go to Disneyland because we're in Arizona. So I said, let's go to Disneyland for a few days. So we flew out Wednesday morning, went to the park for a few hours, and Rob's health like tanked. He wasn't feeling well. He just ended up getting worse and worse. And so needless to say, that trip got cut short. We went to urgent care instead. We took a trip to urgent care instead of Disneyland. And then flew home last night.
Is it the same experience at urgent care? Because I'm sure that's a cluster there too. In LA?
Wasn't quite the same as Disneyland. There were no giant turkey legs or churros or anything at the urgent care, but you know, nonetheless.
Well, I hope Rob gets better. Tell him the shark said get better, buddy.
Oh, thank you. I think he's on the up and up now. He got a shot in the butt, and so now he's feeling good.
Oh, it's always good, right? Hey, WWE, shot in the butt. Hey, that's why we have the mania. You never know what's going to happen here. But hey, you're here now. You're in the ring, Amy, and we got a big topic today to talk about for real.
We do. And it's something that I know that both of us are very passionate about. And it's this idea of innovation and what it really means when we talk about innovation in a VUCA world, which for those of you who may not have heard VUCA before or VACA, whatever you're feeling, however you want to emphasize the U, it's basically volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's the term that was coined a while ago. But basically, it's in a world that is constantly changing, constantly adapting, constantly challenging us. And how do you keep up and stay innovative in what you're doing day in and day out? And how do you develop a culture of what I and our buddy, Mr. Tony Robbins, likes to say, canny, and how do you create a constant and never-ending improvement organization of mindset and culture within your company?
Ooh, well said. I think the first word is adapt, right? I mean, I'm going to say this right off the bat. How many people adapt? Even in our industry, Amy, you got to talk about this seriously. So many people are behind the times on everything. They think they're innovative, but they're not. They get an AI solution, just one, and they think, wow, next year's going to be great.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. Can you break it down? Because you're the expert in this. I mean, do you want me to put the slide up yet, or you want to wait?
We'll do that in a moment. But yeah, when it comes to this idea of adaptability in and of itself, I mean, we've talked about this before, and myself having gone through this amazing certification on immunity to change. We as human beings, we struggle with being adaptive. We can adapt in the moment. We can adapt in unplanned circumstances. You know, if there's traffic on the highway, you have to swing by and pick up milk on the way home or whatnot. We're pretty adaptive in the moment. But when it comes to intentional change, anything that we're going about where we try to set some sort of plan or forecasting or strategic visioning or goals, we're actually really bad at it. And part of it is just the makeup of how our brains work. You know, we hear about our primitive brains all the time, but it's partially how our brains work, but it's also just because we're not really good with dealing with uncertainty. But the truth is that in today's day and age, and now you can throw up the slide, Rick, in today's
Oh boy.
change
I'm
is
like,
happening at a pretty crazy pace. Like if you throw up the slide in here in a
all
minute.
right, here we go. This is a little Vanna White for me. I don't look like Vanna White, but I'm trying to. Here we go.
Oh, wait, I'll go over here. So when we think about this, now this is pulled from Accenture. This is from their Pulse of Change Index that they did earlier this year. And basically, if you look at the growth of the rate of change that we are experiencing year over year, it was pretty small just a few years ago. And
Mhm.
now the rate of change just from 2019 to today is 183% growth. That is massive change that is happening continually year over year, and sometimes even quarter over quarter or month over month within the business world. But we think even especially within staffing, you know, there in C-suites, you can see executives are saying that they expect an 88% increase in change that they are going through in 2024. That is a lot of change, that and a lot of it is big changes. It's also small things, but that's a lot of change for us to try to keep up with. And unless we have developed the capabilities and the mindset to actually be adaptive and innovative, and the new term right now that's very hot, even beyond agile, is being nimble. How can we become nimble
Mhm.
as organizations, as people, and as an industry in order to keep up and ideally be in front of the next big changes that are happening out there?
Well said. Okay, so you think the change, I mean, it's technology, of course, and everything coming at us real fast. The pandemic had a big effect too. Do you agree on that or not?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a huge change. I always joked that I remember back in the day, just even from a work from home perspective, I remember back in 2004, I had to buy and put together a full telework proposal to my
Ooh.
company to convince them that I could do my job remotely and not have to move back to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. So I remember, or actually 2005 is when I did it. And I remember doing that and having to put together a whole proposal. Fast forward, you know, now 20 years in the future, and actually really even since 2020, now there are so many people that are working remotely in organizations that otherwise had said, no, we can't do that. That's impossible. It won't work for us. You make it work.
Now, what do you think? Okay, so remote. I just want to jump in this real quick here on a side note, like remote work or the hybrid work. I'll be honest with you, I like going to the office at times. I think that
I,
straight 100%
yeah.
remote, I think it's disconnect from the organization.
I think there's a balance. I think that there's value in both. I know for me, most of the things that we do on the Painted Porch are done virtually, remote, via, webinars or Zoom sessions, but there are certain things, especially the strategic planning, the intentional future state design and planning of operations, those I've become a stubborn Pollock, and I insist that we do it in a room together with the people, because it's so difficult. It's such big decisions that are being
Mhm.
made for the future of an organization, that to do it in an hour Zoom call here or there, it's shortchanging what's possible for the organization, as well as creating better alignment and consistency with what it is that they're designing. It has to be in person. There are some things that just have greater value and impact when you bring people in a room together, for sure.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you see the vibe, everything that comes around it. The energy level goes total a different level than a Zoom call. I mean, how many people on a
Yes.
Zoom call? I love it when they like take their stuff off the screen. They're going somewhere else, cooking food or something like that. 20 minutes in the bathroom. Hey, Amy, I got to tell you, when I'm on Zoom calls and I'm running them, they come back in. I'm like, where'd you go? I'm calling them
Yeah.
out. Even when I speak, people get up and some people leave. Usually nobody leaves, but somebody left before. I'm like, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm like, well, keep your notebook here. But no, that's that comical stuff that you have to keep with. Something I want to dive into now, if it's okay. I went on Forbes, did some research here, and the innovative companies that are rocking out in 24. You ready for this? I mean, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and Netflix. Even though some, Tesla's laying people off, these companies innovate. I mean, Look at Amazon alone. How every year they're innovating everything they do. What they did 5 years ago is totally different than what they're doing now.
Well, and they approach it with a very intentional strategy around it. Jeff Bezos, whatever you think about him, he is an innovative mind. All of these individuals are thinking innovatively, but he established from the early days of Amazon, he has this concept called day one. And basically, anytime they approach any type of problem that they need to address, or an opportunity that they want to take advantage of, they bring a day one mindset. It's basically like first principles thinking. That day one mindset says, this is the first day of this solution that we're trying to create. We're going to pretend as if it has never been done before. How are we going to solve this? And that is so critical when it comes to being innovative in a world that is constantly challenging us and forcing us to pivot and adapt. So often when we think about innovation, we look at it through a very narrow view. We think of it as technology.
Yeah.
Or we often, when we think we're innovating, all we're really doing is just slightly tweaking something that we already do today. That is not innovation.
No,
That is
not at
not
all.
transformation. That is just tinkering. I like to say, are you transforming or are you tinkering? Most people tinker when it comes to change, and they tinker partially because of fear of failure. I mean, we can talk about that more in a moment. But
Tinker? I love that
the fear
word.
of getting it wrong, the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of making a mistake, the fear of quote unquote wasting money. But the truth is that we also do it because internally within ourselves, again, that immunity to change that we have, our bodies and our minds unconsciously to us actively resist any sense of uncertainty. We crave certainty in what we do and how we act and how how we operate. But the truth is that in order to truly be innovative, you have to embrace the uncomfortable and embrace uncertainty and
Exactly.
embrace not knowing what's going to happen next.
And you know what you said well there. Anybody owns their own company knows this. Uncertainty. You're not getting a paycheck every week. There's that. And Tony Robbins sums this up all the time, Amy. He says this, that's nothing wrong with that. If you want that W-2 check every week, that's great. But the people that go out there and do it themselves, they're jumping off a cliff like a bird. They have no clue what's going to happen. No fear. And I love that.
Yes.
Get in a ring. Let's jam it out. I got to tell you one thing that I want to talk about Netflix real quick.
Yeah.
I'm a big Netflix. Everybody 2 years ago, remember they bashed Netflix is going away. Hulu was going to come in the ring. We had all these. Guess who the champion is still? Netflix.
Yeah.
And look how they changed things. Now they've got the Mike Tyson fight. They're going to have NFL. They did not even have streaming 2 years ago like this, live events. Now they're gobbling up all those sporting events. Tell me they didn't change how streaming is done.
Well, and Reed Hastings is another great example of a truly innovative leader. I recently I learned a lot more about him and about Netflix and how they approached their idea of innovation. Let's go back in a time machine. Let's go back, let's say 10 years ago, right? Netflix at that time, what were they known for?
Oh, they were known for their DVDs, right?
DVDs in mail. Yep. DVDs in the mail. Reed had this feeling, actually, even before he created Netflix, he was really curious about this idea of streaming. But at the time, streaming really wasn't, I think YouTube was maybe just starting back then. And it really wasn't up to the quality that it needed to be in order for streaming to be the thing for how people consumed media going forward. But he always had this idea in the back of his mind. But 90% of their revenue at Netflix was DVDs. And but he knew he wanted to pursue streaming. He knew he wanted to find a way to do it. So the first thing he did, well-intended, which is what so many organizations do, is he brought in his executives and he said, okay, guys, streaming, this is what we want to pursue. How are we going to do it? And what he found is that those executives, all they could do was think about it in terms of what they did today. They were trying to base it all on their DVD model. And he said, you know what? This is not the future. DVDs are not the future. He ended up he didn't fire those people, but he said, thank you for your feedback. You may leave. And he basically hired a whole new team of people to help design. He didn't he in essence kind of shut the DVD people out because he's like, you had your chance, but all you could do was try to recreate DVDs in a new delivery method. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to create something wholly innovative. So he actually brought in a whole new team, and he left the DVD people to do what they do best, which is DVDs. And he brought a whole new group in to help design streaming for the future. And look where they are today. He was willing to take a chance. He was willing to basically leave the people that were bringing 90% of his revenue outside of the room. He's like, I don't want you in this room because you are not bringing the type of ideas that I need in order to design something wholly different, wholly unimagined for the future.
And he put the chokehold on one company, Blockbuster. See ya.
Yep.
He put them down for the count. As we talk about in StaffingMania, they went out of business because of Netflix. And we know that facts is facts. And I love his innovation he had. And you know what? Even though people were like on board for like today, he was like, dude, this is a vision for this is longevity. Amy, this is going to go farther than just 1 year. And I think you summed it up real quick here that so many people in our industry and everywhere, they live for today and not for the future of 12, months down the road or something like that. Because guess what? People are scared. People don't like what you summed it up. They don't like change.
Yeah.
We'll take little baby steps. Well, we're not in baby step area anymore. You got to take leaps.
Yes, you have to take leaps. You have to be willing to take those leaps. And you're right. In staffing, the majority of the organizations, and to a certain extent, how they're run, the operations within them is a reactive business. We've talked about that a lot.
All the time.
Sorry. I got a new green screen. I'm trying to figure it out here. It's like it's on my chair and I can't move. But they tend to react to what's in the moment. And statistically, it's not their fault, but statistically, less than 50% of organizations spend any meaningful time on strategy. And even of those, less than 50% who spend any time on real strategy, real long-term strategic visioning, not what we're going to do in the next quarter, but what we're trying to aim for the next 3, 5, 10 years down the road. Of those 50% that do any type of strategy, the majority spend less than an hour a month on it.
You're right.
That is not going to move the needle. That is not going to keep you in lockstep with change, but actually be innovative and be in front of the change that's coming next.
Because our industry is worried about one thing: revenue right now. Now. What about if you take a little step here and then you go and see what your revenue is in 6 months if you have the innovation? And something else, Amy, I'm going to tell you that so many people don't do. They don't like tap in. What I'm doing right now is I'm studying the Netflix, the Amazons. If you bring a little bit of that to the staffing industry, you will crush it, Amy. I think we study each other's stuff in the industry like a world, but there's another world out there that's rocking it out. Why can't we grab their stuff? Tell me your take on that.
I think it just has to do with having intention. It takes time. They always say you take time for strategy now, or you're going to be forced to take time for it later on. And you have to take the time, and you can certainly borrow from what other industries are doing. But first and foremost, you have to be willing to take the time and to assume the risk that you're not going to have the immediate short-term results or reward that you otherwise want to see. Instead of looking at your business as performance over quarter, you really need to think about the long term. You had mentioned, Rick, at the beginning, well, when we were talking about my weird week, we talked about Disney. So Walt Disney, his birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Walt. And if we think about innovative individuals, like people that were doing something completely different and specifically taking a risk when the environment was not really the time for risk. Tony Robbins talks about winter is coming. He always talks about winter is coming, and how the organizations that thrived over time were the ones that doubled or tripled down in times of economic uncertainty. Walt Disney is one of those. He formed his company during the Great Depression. I mean, that's pretty bold in itself. But anyways, with Disney, he was such an innovative mind that even today, it's more than 50 years after his death, he created such a clear strategic vision and a why for what Disney, especially the parks, what they were meant to be, that even today, when they are creating something new or when they're addressing a problem or an opportunity within their industry, within their organization, they say, what would Walt do? They know, because they know his vision. He articulated it so clearly, and he set a path that even way after his death, he created a legacy of innovative minds, innovative thinkers. He even called them Imagineers. They're people who can imagine something
Oh, it's
that is
amazing.
not even possible. He made that happen, and it's still happening today. So as an organization, could you say the same about your people that work for you? Could they articulate your vision? If you were to leave tomorrow, would they be perpetuating this vision that you've created, or would they just keep doing the same thing that they always
Same.
do?
I'm going to tell you, Amy, it's the same
Another
thing.
one of those.
It's the same thing across the country on every staffing firm. It's the same thing, cubicles and things. For me, I'm trying to innovate that with music, pinball machines and stuff like that. We got to bring that, I call it the mini Disney World culture, into people getting hired.
Yes.
Why can't we do this? But you know what they'll say? Well, that's not the way. What is the staffing way? It's not working now, peeps, right? Because everybody's saying they're having a bad year. Well, I'm not. I know you're not. We're both smiling. So it's like, hey, we're going to Disneyland, Disney World, and having fun. Everybody else is complaining like it's a bad year. No, it wasn't a bad year. You had to be strategic this year.
Yes, you have to be strategic and you have to be innovative. And that is not your technology. The technology you use can always be a support. It can be an enabler, but it will only enable what you already are doing or what you're intentionally going to do differently tomorrow. That's all a technology is going to do. At the end of the day, innovation starts and ends with the innovation of what you're doing, your operations, your processes, and who and how they're doing it, your people. The only way you can innovate. So this is to all of you organizations out there. I'm going to throw down the gauntlet. It's been a weird week.
Amy, come on, give it to us real quick.
Throwing it down. That any organization that wants to innovate in any meaningful way in 2025, and you're saying, we just need this new tech, I'm going to tell you, you're setting yourself up for failure.
100%.
The only way that you are going to innovate is if you innovate your processes and your people. That is the foundation to then innovate through your technology. So get those two things solid, get them strategically aligned, actually take the time to design a strategy beyond more revenue, more headcount, more clients. I'm going to challenge you to think a little harder than that, because that is not the vision of a Disney. That's not his driver. He had something greater. Think beyond the numbers, think beyond the quantitative, and think about the qualitative, and create processes and people that are innovative. So that way, regardless of the situation, regardless of the environment, regardless of the market, regardless of who's in charge, regardless of what's going on in the economy or politics or whatever, you are in front of whatever is happening next. And so that way you can be viewed as the go-to expert, the go-to organization that your clients want to work with, and think candidates want to be a part of, and bring their friends along.
Woo, man. Is that what the staffing shark's cooking? Woo, man, that was great. I tell you what, that was 2 minutes of woo.
That was rant. That was the Friday yak rant.
But you know what? I love that, because that yak at the end of the day, I'm just going to put it on top. At the end of the day, you got to look in the mirror, leaders, and say, I'm going to change in 25. Let's thrive in 25. But at the end of the day, you got to change. It starts from the top and goes all the way down. But until you change, guess what? The same old situation. Can I sing that song by Molly Crew? That same old situation is going to happen over and over and over. And guess what? You'll never get that championship belt.
No. Yeah, you're not going to win the belt by doing the same moves you've always done, because your opponents are expecting it. They know what moves you're going to do.
Remember, if I can sum it up like this real quick, Amy, you know what? It's the first of the year. Resolutions, which I hate. You know what? We all change our bodies, right? Every time we work out, we eat. Why don't you change your business and your model? Same way as you change your clothes every day. Why don't you change the way you think?
And that's ultimately it at the end of the day. Richard, you hit the nail on the head. The only way you can innovate as an organization is to change the way you think about your organization and help your people develop innovative mindsets, future-focused culture. So that way, instead of reacting to whatever just happened, you are actually anticipating and primed and ready to adapt, to be nimble, to go with the flow, to constantly be in front of the VUCA, whatever is happening out there. If you create that capability and that courage and that confidence and that curiosity, I love alliterations. If you focus on all of those C's, you will be successful in 2025. But don't think it's all going to get solved by adopting some new tech.
There it is. There we go. We're out of here. You know what? Be a change champion in 25. Change champion. Wear that belt with change.
Yes.
All right, Amy. See you later. We're out of here. Out of the ring. Good job.